Yes. Okay, good morning, everyone. So we want to continue, though this is going to be our last class, or well, last class with me anyway. So another lecturer will be taking over from Wednesday. So we are going to be rounding up our conversation on chemical equilibrium today, and we'll start that conclusion of our conversation with Le-Chatelier's-Braun principle. Le-Chatelier-Braun principle. Now, remember, we already said that rate constant, equilibrium constant, you expect them to be constant at constant temperature and pressure. But of course, this has nothing to do with nothing to do with concentration. But even if you change concentration, as long as you maintain either constant temperature or constant pressure, you expect those constants to remain constant. Of course, they change when you change temperature or you change pressure. But now, we now want to see what happened when you change temperature. What happened when you change pressure? Remember, you're talking about a reversible reaction here. This is not just a one-way reaction. You're talking about a reversible reaction. Now, how does this change? How does this change? How does it affect the reactant and product? How does it affect the reactant and product? How does it affect the constant itself? What happened when you change temperature, when you change the pressure? Now, okay, even when you change concentration, again, you expect some form of variation to happen. You expect some form of changes to take place. What are these changes? How do these changes, how do they affect the reaction? And of course, this principle, the Le-Chatelier-Braun principle, is actually based on the second law of thermodynamics. And what does it state really? If a change occur in one of the variables, and we're talking about pressure, temperature, or concentration, under which a system is in equilibrium, the system will always react in a direction which will tend to counteract the effect of change in the variable under consideration. If a change occurs in one of the variables, like pressure, temperature, or concentration, under which that system is in equilibrium, the system will always react in a direction that will tend to nullify the effect of the change in the variable under consideration. Now, what do we mean by that? Now, let's start with change in pressure. If, for example, if you have gaseous reactant, because remember, we already said that pressure is actually of considerable significance if you're dealing with gaseous reactions, reactions involving gaseous substances. Now, an increase in the pressure of a gaseous mixture at equilibrium will cause decrease in volume, because remember that if you increase pressure, of course, you'll expect the volume to increase. And therefore, the system will move in such a manner so as to favor smaller volume. Now, look at this. In the formation of ammonia, you have 1 mole of nitrogen and 3 mole of hydrogen. Both to react to give you 2 mole of ammonia. Now, if you increase volume, because what your idea is that the decrease from 4 volume to 2, that's what you're seeing here. You're moving from decrease from 4 volume to 2 volume. Now, what do we mean by 4 volume to 2 volume? Remember, the molar volume, we talk about molar volume of a gas. That means that it doesn't matter at all. The volume of a gas will be proportional to the number of moles of that gas that you have. So the fact that you have 1 mole of ammonia here, whatever the condition is, that number of the volume of ammonia will be 1/3 of that of hydrogen, because the number of mole has a relationship with volume when you're dealing with gases. Not liquid now, but when you're dealing with gases, number of mole has a relationship with volume. So, and of course, there's a direct relationship. The higher the mole, the higher the volume. A mole at STP, we talk about 22.4 dnq. So, when you have 1 mole, you know that, okay, you know what the volume is. When you have 3 mole, you know that's going to be that volume multiplied by 3. So that's what you have here. And that's why we can relate volume to number of moles. So when you have 4 moles of gases, giving you 2 mole of gases, you're talking about volume decreasing from 4 to 2. That means eventually, it doesn't matter whether you're working with what the exact number of mole is. What is important is the mole ratio during their reaction. What is important is just that mole ratio during their reaction. This can be 0.1, 0.3, 0.2 in terms of number of moles. It can be 1, 3, 2. It can be 0.2, 0.6, and 0.4. But the most important thing is that mole ratio is what is important. So if you're dealing with 4 to 2 in this situation, now remember what we said, that if you increase pressure, that means volume is going to decrease. Now, in this case now, if you increase pressure, you will expect the side with smaller volume to be favored. And that is the forward reaction. Because in this case, you have 4 volume, you have 2 volume. If you increase pressure, because when you increase pressure, you would want the volume to reduce. Now, if you want the volume to reduce, then that means that you're going to be moving from that higher volume, or what you will expect volume to reduce. That means you're going to be moving from higher volume to lower volume, meaning that you're moving from reactant to product. More reactant to be converted to product. In this situation, because you're moving from 4 mole to 2 mole, 4 volume to 2 volume. But if you decrease pressure in this situation, that means, of course, you'll expect volume to increase. Because you'll expect volume to increase when you decrease pressure. And I'm sure that is actually intuitive when we say that when you increase pressure, volume decreases, you decrease pressure, volume increases. So it's like when you have your sealed carbonated drink that is still sealed. When it's sealed, that is still increased pressure. The gas has smaller volume, but immediately you open it, that means you've decreased pressure and some of the gases are going to be able to escape. That's the increase in volume. So now in this situation, when you increase pressure, side with smaller volume will be favored. You decrease pressure, side with higher volume will be favored, because that's what you expect to come out of such changes. Now that is for volume. Now, the effect of temperature. Now, it depends on whether you're dealing with an exothermic or an endothermic reaction. It depends. Remember, temperature, you're supplying heat. You're either supplying it or you're taking away heat. So essentially, it's about the change in the amount of heat content of the reaction mixture. Now, it now depends on which side will be favored. Now, look at this, because you could write, because this particular equation that you're seeing here, 2SO2 plus O2 to give you 2SO3. You can reverse it, but when you reverse it, instead of having this as positive, it's going to become negative. This is an endothermic reaction the way it is. It's an endothermic reaction the way it is. But if you decide to write it the opposite way, that is, you're writing 2SO3 to give you 2SO2 plus O2. Now, it's still going to be the same magnitude of heat, but now the sign will change, because that would be an exothermic. Because if the forward reaction is endothermic, the backward reaction should be exothermic. And that is important to note. So because somebody can write the same equation the other way for you, but the only thing is just going to be like, you won't have this as positive, it's going to be negative. Now, when you're talking about an endothermic reaction, you're saying that reaction consumes heat. When you say, oh, a particular reaction is endothermic, just like the one we have here, we're saying that, oh, forward reaction is endothermic. Essentially, what it means is that this reaction absorbs heat. It consumes heat. Now, if we say a reaction consumes heat, you're talking about the forward reaction now, because that is important. The forward reaction consumes heat, because forward reaction is plus 42 kilocal. Backward reaction will be negative, backward reaction will release heat. Now, we're dealing with the forward reaction now. So, if forward reaction consumes heat, and now you're supplying heat, you're increasing temperature, that means that forward reaction will be favored. But if you reduce temperature and forward reaction consumes heat, that means that forward reaction will not be favored again. The backward reaction will now be favored. But essentially, the general rule is that increase in heat will favor an endothermic reaction, while decrease in heat will favor, increase in temperature will favor an endothermic reaction, while decrease in temperature will favor an exothermic reaction. Now, conversely, okay, for endothermic reaction which absorbs heat, an increase in temperature will be favored. Well, still repeating the same thing. Endothermic reactions where heat is given out are favored by removal of okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay. I think I got that mixed up really, because I was asking myself, what was I saying? Now, okay, the real thing is that if forward reaction is actually favored by if forward reaction, because what I said was actually the reverse. Exothermic reaction is favored by increase in temperature, while endothermic reaction will be favored by decrease in temperature. Now, because if you look at what we have here, if you're having this reaction gives out heat. Now, if you are reducing the heat, if you're reducing the temperature, then that means that of course you're going to be allowing the reaction to kind of like proceed smoothly. So in the reaction resulting in the formation of sulfur trioxide, according to the following chemical equation. So this is an exothermic reaction. No, this is an endothermic reaction, please. This is not. This is an endothermic. There's a mistake here. This is an endothermic endothermic reaction, not exothermic reaction. I need to check. This reaction is. I think that equation is not correct. I think that's where the mistake comes from. I'm trying to see. I think when we're correcting the slide, we made a mistake also. Because this is because positive is endothermic, negative is exothermic. Sorry, please. Because I do not want to, just a minute, I don't want to leave that unresolved. Where is this slide? Sorry, guys. I was, I didn't know that I did not mute. Sorry. I was already talking and, okay, so let me take it again. When I saw somebody raising up his hand, that was when I realized that I did not unmute. Okay, so let me take that again. So what we're saying is that this is negative. It wasn't, it was a mistake to be written as positive, really. I wanted to make sure that we kind of like get the correct sign there. So, because immediately I saw what was written here, I already realized that there must be a mistake. So now this is negative, meaning that the forward reaction is exothermic. Now, because the forward reaction is exothermic, increase in temperature will favor the backward reaction because increase in temperature favors endothermic reaction, while decrease in temperature favors exothermic reaction. In this case, forward reaction is exothermic, backward reaction is endothermic. Now, the question is, if we increase temperature, which side will be favored? Backward reaction that is endothermic will be favored because that requires supply of heat. That is the side that absorbs heat for it to take place. But if we decrease temperature, forward reaction will be favored because that is generating heat. That's a reaction that is generating heat on its own. So if we reduce temperature, forward reaction will be favored. Increase temperature, backward reaction will be favored. Decrease temperature, forward reaction will be favored. And like I said, there are three factors that we're talking about here. There are, okay, catalyst. Anyway, that doesn't really have any effect. But there are three issues: temperature, pressure, and concentration. Now, for temperature, for pressure, we already said it. It's about volume. You increase pressure, you decrease volume. And I use carbonated drink as an example. That, okay, when you have your distilled carbonated drink, you already have your CO2 under pressure. And that's why it was able to maintain the volume of the bottle at that particular point. But immediately you unseal or you open it, you remove the cap, then you've reduced pressure. And that's why volume now increases and some of those CO2 begin to escape. So it's the same thing here. And that's why you can actually relate pressure to volume. And I also said that the number of moles is proportional because remember, we always talk about molar volume. Molar volume at STP. It doesn't matter what temperature is. For all gases, there's always a relationship between the number of moles and volume. So in this case now, you need the most important thing is that what number of mole do you have? Because the number of mole will be proportional to the amount of volume you have. We have 4 mole at the beginning here, 2 mole at the end, meaning that whatever volume we have at the end, we have that multiplied by 2 at the beginning of the for the reactant. So that means the volume of product here is half of the volume of reactant. That is what you have here. Now, when you now increase pressure, we already said that when you increase pressure, you favor the side with the lower volume. You favor the side with the lower volume. In this case, it's the forward reaction. You can have that reaction where it's going to be the backward reaction. But in this case, it's the forward reaction that has a lower volume. So when you increase pressure, forward reaction will be favored. When you decrease pressure, you expect volume to increase. Therefore, backward reaction will be favored. While for temperature, what you check, while for pressure, you check the number of mole to relate that to volume. For temperature, you check whether the reaction is exothermic or endothermic. So when you have a reaction that is endothermic, that is the forward reaction is endothermic, when you increase the heat, and I already said that again when we first talked about this, that when the forward reaction is endothermic, that means the backward reaction is exothermic. If the forward is exothermic, that means the backward reaction is endothermic. So now, when you now change temperature, or when you increase temperature or decrease temperature, the question you need to ask yourself first, is the forward reaction exothermic or endothermic? Or which reaction? Because when you're increasing temperature, you know you're favoring the endothermic reaction. When you decrease temperature, you're favoring the exothermic reaction. Now, if you talk about increase in temperature, now the question is, which side of the reaction is exothermic or endothermic? Oh, sorry. When you increase temperature, which side of the reaction is endothermic? In this case, now the backward reaction is endothermic because the forward is exothermic. So that means for this reaction, if you increase temperature, backward reaction will be favored. If you decrease temperature, forward reaction will be favored. So the question you ask yourself when you want to see what is the effect of a temperature change on the equilibrium is to ask yourself, if it is endothermic, or sorry, if you're increasing temperature, which side is endothermic? That is what will be favored. If you're decreasing temperature, which side is exothermic? That is the side that will be favored. Now, the next one is concentration. The next one is concentration. Just a minute, please.
You've been waiting for a good time to do this, then this could be it. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested. Step
Now, so the next one is concentration. Now, you see, if you change any of this, for example, because the most important thing, remember what we're talking about, because what Le-Chatelier's principle states is the fact that if you change any of these parameters, your equilibrium constant must still remain the same. What happens is that one of all the variables will change in such a way as to maintain the same equilibrium constant. Now, to be able to explain that, let's look at I want us to look at okay, what is it? Okay, if you have look at this case here. Now, if you increase the concentration of C, remember, if the concentration of C changes and every other thing still remains the same, that means your Kc will increase. But Kc must not increase. So now, what happens is this. When you change the concentration of C, every other thing changes in such a way that you maintain the same Kc. Now, say you increase the concentration of C. Immediately you increase the concentration of C, you will expect more C and D to react to give you A and B, because at the end of the day, you need to decrease, immediately you increase that concentration to be able to maintain the same Kc. Some of those C that you added must also react so that you can have more A and B. At the end of the day, of course, you're still going to end up with an increase in C, but that increase in C will be balanced by increase in A and B and D so that you will still have the same Kc. It's the same thing with pressure. It's the same thing with pressure. If you increase pressure of 1, then if you say you increase pressure on this, you increase pressure on the reactant side, then if nothing happened to the product side, then that means Kp will increase. But meanwhile, Kp must not increase. So the only thing that changes is that immediately you change this, you increase the pressure, then the next thing you see is that, okay, in this case now, okay, this is 2-2 anyway. So you don't expect pressure to even have any, when you increase pressure, of course, you don't, because at the end of the volume are the same. So change in pressure is not going to have any effect. Because remember, what determines is the change in volume. And this has 2 volts, so it's 2-2. So, but an example we can use is what we have here. So if you increase the pressure of the reactant, or you increase pressure, sorry, not increase pressure of the reactant, because you are dealing with the whole system generally, so together. So if you increase the pressure of the system, then the one with the higher volume will kind of like react to that pressure to produce more of that side with lower volume. So that at the end of the day, the pressure, because at the end of the day, your Kp is going to be the pressure of N2 multiplied by the pressure of H2. Oh, sorry, a pressure of NH3 raised to power 2 divided by the pressure of N2 multiplied by the pressure of H2. So that when all those things are the partial pressures. Now, when you now change pressure, all those pressure also adjust in a way that still give you the same Kp. And the adjustment will come from that one with higher volume, will give you more of that one with lower volume, so that you can still have the same Kp. Now, it's the same thing with concentration. When you say you're dealing with this now, say we're dealing with this reaction. Oh, okay, we should have, why did we delete the slide for concentration? There should be a slide for concentration. So now, if you now have, say for example, we're dealing with concentration. This is not concentration thing. This is gas. These are gases now. But let's say that they are liquid and we're dealing with concentration here. Now, if you increase, say you change the concentration of SO2. Say you increase the concentration of SO2. Now, your Kc must still remain the same. And the only way it will remain the same is that all this also, they have to change. And how would they change? SO2, more SO2 would have O2 and give you more SO3. So that at the end of the day, you'll have more SO3, so that eventually you'll end up. And how does that affect the direction of the equilibrium? It means that when you increase the concentration of any of the reactants, more of the product will be produced. If you increase, say you increase concentration of SO2, you'll produce more of SO3. Say you increase the concentration of O2, you produce more of SO3. If you decrease the concentration of SO2, then backward reaction will be favored. That means you've reduced, because the equilibrium has been disturbed, and it has to restore that balance, really. It will restore that balance by producing more of what you have removed. So you remove SO2, SO3 will react together and give you more of SO2. You remove O2, SO3 will also react to give you more of O2. You add SO3 also, then more SO2 and O2 must be produced. So at the end of the day, whichever one you do, if you're reducing any of the concentration of any of the reactants, more of it must be produced. That means that side of the reaction must be favored, will be favored. If you're increasing concentration of any of the species, that means more of it needs to be consumed. Then that means that consumption, the consumption, okay, how will I put that now? So if you increase any of the species, or you increase the concentration of any of the species, that means more of that species must be consumed. And that means the reaction of the species whose concentration you've increased will be favored. In this case now, you increase SO2, reaction of SO2 will be favored, and reaction of SO2 is to give you SO3. So that is the way changes in concentration, that is the way it works. Now, but again, the principle itself does not tell us quantitative changes. It only gives a qualitative description of what happens to the direction. And again, remember, equilibrium constant itself remains the same anyway, but it's not telling us, oh, how much of this will now, how much of SO2 will react now to, when you increase SO2, it's not telling us how much of SO2 will react or whatever. No, it's not saying that. But the most important thing is that at the end of the day, you're still going to end up with the same equilibrium constant. That is the whole idea. Whatever you do, you must still end up with the same equilibrium constant. And the question you ask yourself is that, If I do this, what needs to happen for the equilibrium constant to remain the same? If I increase concentration of SO2, what needs to happen for the equilibrium constant for this to remain the same? That means SO2 has to be consumed. That means forward reaction will be favored. If I decrease concentration of SO3, what needs to happen for equilibrium constant to remain the same? And in this situation, that means that, of course, eventually, that means more of SO3 has to react. Then that means the backward reaction will be favored. For pressure, you look at the volume, you look at the number of moles, and you ask yourself which side will be favored. For temperature, you need to ask yourself, is it endothermic or endothermic? Increase in temperature will favor endothermic side, decrease in temperature will favor exothermic side. Now, the catalyst does not alter the value of equilibrium constant for any reversible reaction. It simply helps in approaching the equilibrium earlier, at an earlier stage, by catalyzing equally both the forward and backward reaction. So at the end of the catalyst itself, of course, while it speeds up it can only speed up the rate of reaction itself. It does not affect the position or the shift of the equilibrium. It does nothing because it affects both sides equally. Just like pressure, when you have the same number of mole on both sides, will affect both sides equally, and you will not have a change. So that's where we stop this morning. So I think I'm going to have a long time to take questions this morning. So, and that's the end of our class for my side. Somebody else is taking over next week. So now our questions. Now raise up your hand, please, so we can start with our question and answer. We have 18 minutes for question and answer this morning. Ayomide Olaoluwa, unmute, please.
Okay. Sorry, I don't want to confirm.
Ayomide,
you made some changes to.
Oluwatola.
Yes, sir.
Afolabi,
I just want to confirm.
unmute, please, and ask your question.
Will the slides be sent? The updated one?
By essentially paying them to come here.
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Hello, morning.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Okay.
Chemistry test.
Hold on, please. I think something is wrong here. Hold on, please. I'm trying to deal with my volume. Just a minute, please. Okay. Your question, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We just want to get an update about the test for chemistry, sir.
But I thought the coordinator posted this on your class rep platform. I saw it this morning. Oh, okay, just hold on, please. Let me check. Because I thought I saw something like that on that platform this morning.
Okay, sir.
Okay, maybe I was hallucinating or something. Let me check. Because I thought I saw something posted by. Okay, good morning, scholars. Start preparing for CHM 101 FSC 112 test. The information about the test will get to you through the class rep. The online test is going to be MCQ and filling, and will cover all that has been taught by all the lecturers. Kindly rebroadcast. So I think your class rep should send that to you. The coordinator posted that when now? I think he posted this. Wasn't this like on Friday also? He posted that on Friday. So maybe you were not paying attention to what your class rep posted on your platform, because I want to believe that your class rep, because you have very responsible class reps really. So I want to believe that they posted it. Okay, Farouk, your question, please.
Sir, slide 82.
82. Okay, yeah.
Yes, you wrote conversely, endothermic reactions react when it is given out are favored by the removal of it. Shouldn't it be exothermic, sir?
Since this is an formation of sulfur trioxide, will be favored.
The second point, conversely, endothermic reactions.
Okay. Endothermic reaction where it is given out are favored by removal of it. No, it's correct.
But
Oh,
endothermic
okay.
reactions absorb it, sir.
Yeah, so sorry, it's exothermic, really. Thank you. This should be exothermic. Thank you. Yeah, that's exothermic. Thank you very much. Now, okay. Okay. Adeyile, or mute, please.
Okay, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I wanted to ask, the test, will it only comprise of what we've been taught? Nothing more than what we've been taught?
No, nobody will ask you what you've not been taught. That would be irresponsible. Well,
Our
okay, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
There are times when lecturer tells you, go read this up. But I didn't do that. And I'm not sure that if any lecturer actually told you to read anything, then, of course, that's a legitimate part of your test, really. But nobody will ask you questions on what has never been mentioned. That would be irresponsible.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, who else? Questions? Questions? Okay, so I want to believe that there are no questions. So good morning, everyone. So, and I wish you all the, okay, Uthman. So, unmute, please. Hey, now this is breaking up.
Good morning, sir.
Even hear what you say. Morning, okay. I think I can hear you now.
Out of the slide, can we get the slide for this particular topic, sir?
I already posted the slide. I already posted everything. I posted it sometimes. When was that now? I think that was last week, Friday also.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, sir.
I'm sure that your classmate must have actually sent it to you somehow. Ayomide Oluwa to be Loba.
Sir, the thing about the slide is that there are some mistakes. So should we like change it by ourselves or we'll get the updated
Okay.
one?
Thank you for mentioning that because I was okay. I think that's actually a good point. Really, I'll take a look at the mistake. I think I'll post another. I'll send you another version because I'm already trying to even correct some of those mistakes. So I'll look at the slides again, but I'll send you another version before the end of tomorrow. I apologize for that. Really. I should have done that even much earlier. But the reason I think I was waiting for us to finish. So if there are any other thing, remember we've seen out on other two things today, but you'll get it before the end of tomorrow. Thank you for bringing that up. Eniola? Oh, okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Your question, I can't hear anything.
Yes, sir, please, can you go back to the last slide, please? I want to check something.
Okay. Another question? Okay, good morning, everyone. So I wish you all the best. Then I'll send you the updated version of the slide before the end of tomorrow. So all the best, everyone. Good morning.